Sometimes you find that everything around you is on fire, that all the shiny, popular things of yesterday are being rapidly reduced to ash. At times like these, your own empathy tugs at you like a 5-year-old, begging you not to gaze upon the cinders and smile silently to yourself at the misfortune of your enemies and anyone on the spectrum of competitor. While that's only wise humaning, it's also okay to take a moment, look over at the pond, take in the sight of the burning inferno of the shoreline, and reflect on how good it truly feels that somehow you already learned those lessons and didn't end up in any of those fiery lobster traps. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss how things are not going very unicornly beautiful on the other side of the fence, with Lido, Celsius, and 3AC all having what seem like very, very atrociously bad months. We'll talk about the new IOG EVM Sidechain, the new Lace Wallet dApp store with dApp certification, a very good point regarding why it's so good to be Cardano right now, and the miraculous fruition of the turtleback metaverse. If some part of you deep down suffers from just enough pyromania that you would really enjoy being this close to a legit wildfire, or if you're liking these videos each weekday except this week, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Many of you will remember the very many times on this channel I begged people not to let themselves get lobster trapped. You'll remember your crypto is like happy little lobsters on the ocean floor, just running around on the ocean floor doing happy little lobster things. And then you see what looks like a cave. It looks like a nice, cozy lobster cave. And you're like, I can let my lobster go in that nice cave. It's a perfectly safe cave. It's just a cave. It'll just go in there and rest. It's going to be great. Then you put your lobster in a little lobster cave, and it turns out it's not a cave. It's actually a lobster trap. And pretty soon you're going to find out it's a lobster trap and not a cave, because the lobstermen are going to harvest your lobster. They're going to end up on the lobster boat, and pretty soon they're in the lobster pot. This is something that can only happen if you give up custody of your crypto, if you allow your lobster to go in the lobster cave. Sure, there are other ways you could get swindled out of your crypto, but a great way to lose your crypto is to give up custody. If you keep your crypto on your hardware wallet, the chances of you losing your crypto go down by a huge amount. You don't end up getting lobster trapped. Somebody might trick you into giving up your seed phrase, sure, but when you voluntarily give up custody of your crypto, bad things can happen, either on purpose. There might be some kind of a rug pull, some kind of an exit scam where the people you trusted to deposit your crypto with run away with your money, or it might be a big accident. Maybe the platform gets hacked. There's some kind of exploit of the platform. Or maybe what's going on is that the project suddenly finds that they can't quite repay the amounts you've deposited with the project, or at least not on any kind of timeline that's going to satisfy all of the people who deposited with the project. Or maybe they issued you some other coin which was supposed to remain equivalent to the crypto by unit that you deposited with the project, and somehow that equivalency depegs. Somehow the coin they gave you that was supposed to represent the coin they're holding for you, the one you voluntarily gave up custody of and deposited with them, somehow those depeg, and all of a sudden you want to sell that coin that they gave you in exchange for your deposit, but it's no longer worth what you actually deposited. So then all of a sudden you go to trade that back in and get your original coin, but there's a run on the bank because in the meantime, maybe they've printed more. Maybe they printed more of that coin to try to get out from behind the the decline they've fallen into to try to make it back up. They've tried to do the central bank thing and print more of it to make it back up. And that means there's more holders out there, and maybe the value of the deposits is also going down for some reason. The value of the deposits is going down, and all these holders are now buying at different values. We have a complete decorrelation of the value of the two assets. Maybe they didn't even do the central bank money printer thing. Maybe the two assets just depegged for some other reason, and they're still left with these deposited assets that are worth much more than the issued assets. Maybe it's even simpler than that. Maybe they just took investments from everybody and they invested those investments in the crypto space, but they made some bad investments. So when the rubber meets the road, they don't have the money to pay back all those investors. There's a million ways these projects can get messed up. How could this be? How could this be the case in crypto? How did we get here? It's because if you're depositing your crypto with somebody else, if you're giving up custody to a centralized entity, you're no longer doing crypto. That's not in keeping with the ethos of crypto. That's not DeFi. If you're depositing your assets with a centralized entity, you're not doing DeFi, you're not doing crypto, you're doing banking. That's banking. And it doesn't matter if they call themselves DeFi, if they say they're creating a decentralized derivative to represent your staked assets. It doesn't matter if they say you're investing in them and they're a VC firm that's going to invest in a bunch of decentralized projects. If you're depositing your crypto assets with a centralized entity, you're not really doing crypto anymore. You just turned your crypto into something else. It's not even really crypto anymore. It's a bank receipt. You've got a bank deposit receipt, and this bank is not FDIC insured. You have a bank deposit receipt from the worst bank ever. Maybe it's the worst bank ever, but you voluntarily did that. You let your little lobster go into a lobster cave. You set it there, and it turned out to be a lobster trap. The whole thing is, this doesn't happen if you never let yourself get lobster trapped, if you never give up custody. In fact, we see this post here. Celsius Network is pausing all withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts. Acting in the interest of our community is our top priority. Our operations continue, and we'll continue to share information with the community. More here. Isn't this exactly the kind of banking activity that Satoshi was worried about? Hey, we paused withdrawals and transfers between accounts. Isn't this exactly what we feared banks doing? If we look down here at the very first comment, at least the one that pops up for me, this WTF, so now I lose my money. Alex, you owe me my money, dude. Alex Mashinsky is the founder, head at least, of Celsius. And the funny part here is that this poster is named Son of Satoshi. I'm going to go ahead and say this is an imposter prince because I don't believe any blood relation of Satoshi would ever have deposited their crypto assets with a centralized entity. But potential lobster traps don't even always look like lobster traps. Sometimes you deposit your crypto assets with something that looks more like infrastructure that's solving a problem. Here we see a post from Lido. They're announcing there has been continuing volatility and further significant movements of the staked ETH to ETH exchange rate again today. While the discount on staked ETH on secondary markets is 5% at the time of writing, Lido continues to operate normally. You'll remember that before this has been characterized by some people as a depegging, of course, because the value of stETH is now trading at a discount to the value of ETH. We talked about what Lido does because Ethereum isn't going to have liquid staking. You can't just you can't just trade your do whatever you want with your Ethereum, with your Ether, once you've delegated it to a stake pool like you can in Cardano. People do want that liquidity, so Lido created staked ETH. You deposit your ETH with them, they stake it somewhere with some stake pool. In exchange, they give you staked ETH, and then you can go off and do DeFi stuff with your staked ETH. Of course, this is the classic case. You're giving up custody of the base layer asset, Ethereum, and you're getting some other asset, in this case, staked ETH. And of course, the worst possible thing is happening. You have a depegging. Staked ETH is no longer worth the ETH that it's supposed to be worth. And they characterize this down here as frustrating. While this temporary drift, a temporary drift in the rate may be frustrating if you are attempting to exit your Ethereum staked ETH position, it is not indicative of any underlying problem with your staked ETH, which continues to earn daily staking rewards. So they have this very long thread they've released trying to convince everybody to relax. No big deal. The staked ETH just depegged from the ETH rate. Don't worry. We know it's frustrating if you're trying to exit this as quickly as you can. The problem is I think a lot of people are really looking at this staked ETH liquidity from Lido and the whole Lido structure as kind of like infrastructure, providing liquidity, because obviously everybody wanted it. But it's the same story. The common denominator here, this platform that a lot of people are trying to exit from and having difficulty because the coin they have is no longer worth the coin they deposited. The common denominator here is they gave up custody of the base layer asset. They gave up custody of their ether in exchange. They got something else that some other entity, not the blockchain they're actually into, some other entity controls this other asset. Sometimes a potential lobster trap can even look like something else. It can even look like a VC firm. Here's a great thread from the DeFi Edge all about what's happening with Three Arrows Capital right now, 3AC. The DeFi Edge says they're becoming insolvent with potentially 18 billion. That's 18 billion with a B. That's bigger than the valuation of a lot of blockchains right now. With potentially 18 billion under management, this could be catastrophic for crypto. Here's a timeline of what's going on and the possible consequences. Then he tells you a few things about Three Arrows Capital, including some of their best investments, which are Avalanche, Near, Aave, Deribit, Starkware, Terra Luna, and Axie Infinity. You'll notice people might differ on whether or not those last two are good investments. In fact, a lot of people would say those are probably not good investments. They say, DeFi Edge says their assets under management were estimated to be between 10 to 18 billion. They were a top 5 VC firm. Their power and influence went far in this industry. Here's where it starts to get interesting. And remember, I'm not making statements of fact here. These are reports from other people. The DeFi Edge says, before the Terra collapse last month, 3AC spent $559.6 million to buy locked Luna. It's now worth roughly $670. Not 670 million, not 670,000, $670. So they spent $559.6 million, and they now have less than $700. It gets worse. He says there is speculation that the massive losses of Luna caused them to use more leverage to earn it back, engaging in revenge trading. He says, we know 3AC has made some fantastic investments, but many of the tokens are locked and illiquid for years. Degen Trading claims that 3AC borrows from every major lender and they're at risk of being liquidated on many of their positions. Rumors start swirling that 3AC was about to be liquidated against its $264 million Ether position. He says at this point, people are confused, but Zusu wrote a crypto tweet the other day hinting that there's trouble at 3AC. He says staked ETH price has been having some issues, like we just discussed. Everyone assumed it was Celsius that was dumping their staked ETH, but he presents this post, which says people think Celsius is the biggest staked ETH dumper, but it's 3AC and it isn't relatively close, with some supporting information there. And then he posts this thread from a firm that he says worked closely with 3AC. He says apparently the founders are ghosting people and 3AC is getting liquidated everywhere. Now we're starting to see the initial consequences come in. Finblocks, a CeFi company, is pausing reward distributions because of 3AC's volatility. 3AC is an investor in Finblocks. He says, watch out for unlocks. So he copies this post, Miles Deutscher. Keep an eye on these assets. These are 3AC's primary holdings. And it's a lot of big blockchains and protocols that we are all aware of. He sums it all up by highlighting the real danger here. He says, unfortunately, we don't have a complete picture of 3AC's wallets and positions. We don't know how much damage it'll cause if they're insolvent. Due to the size of the assets under management, the contagion effects will be catastrophic. On the Cardano side of the world, it still seems to be nothing but sunny days and clear weather. IOHK has now released their EVM Sidechain Alpha. That is the Ethereum virtual machine. That means that developers could run Solidity code on a sidechain of Cardano. They say, we believe in an interoperable future built on multiple blockchains. That's why we're releasing the EVM Sidechain Alpha. We welcome the Ethereum community of users and devs to freely engage with the best of what Cardano has to offer. This has been a long time in the making, and I'm glad to see this finally come out. I've said many times, there would have to be something really compelling to make me use a project running on any kind of sidechain or L2 of Cardano that was EVM. If there was a Plutus native version of that same type of platform, something doing that same use case, if there's a Cardano base layer version or a Plutus version, even if that Plutus version is running on some kind of Plutus sidechain or L2 or something, I'm probably going to use the Plutus version. But there are a huge number of Ethereum developers out there versus Plutus developers. So it's great. Now we've got an IOHK EVM sidechain. We also got this new video about Lace. Lace is IOG's new Mithril-based light wallet. If you follow this channel, you already know what that is, but a Mithril light wallet is one where you don't have to do the kinds of heavy syncing you might have experienced with something like the dataless full node wallet, but you also don't have to trust a server. This is an awesome leap forward. Maybe more interesting was that we found out the Lace wallet would be the wallet that would have the dApp store and dApp certification. This is a great approach by IOG because we can have both permissionless upload of dApps to the dApp store as well as certification. So if some dApp developer wants to upload permissionlessly to the dApp store, they can do it. If another developer wants to meet certification, they can go ahead and do that, and the users can choose to use whatever dApps they want, certified or uncertified. Here's a very good point from our own Will. He says, lack of deep interoperability is a blessing for Cardano right now, and I think he's absolutely right. It is far better in the island, the pond, and the ocean metaphor to have one foot in the ocean right now rather than one foot in the potentially toxic pond that is the EVM world. Interoperability is kind of a highly celebrated cause across crypto, including Cardano right now, and it has been for some time. If you're against interoperability, it's like, are you a communist? Are you a fascist? Are you an anarchist? Are you against starving orphans? What kind of person are you? How could you be against interoperability? And of course, it's not really a binary black and white thing. Some people are just saying maybe right now a little less interoperability is a great thing for a blockchain. And I think it is, in fact, for Cardano. Can you imagine? What if a huge amount of ADA was locked up in Celsius right now? What if, we always have something like 72, 74% of ADA staked, we think at least directly with Cardano stake pools. What if 74% of ADA was in Celsius right now? What if 3AC had invested in all of the projects in Cardano? What if all the projects that are going online after About Basel, what if they all had a little 3AC money still coming to them that wasn't going to come possibly now? What if Cardano DeFi projects were already completely full of staked ETH? What if we already had so much interoperability that they were full of staked ETH? Some of them maybe were even investing in staked ETH. I mean, these these wouldn't necessarily be positive things right now. I think the move towards the ocean, having one foot in the ocean right now, much better than one foot in the, I was saying potentially toxic pond, but it's definitely slightly toxic already and seemingly only getting more and more toxic as each week passes. We have been on a pretty long Cardano Summit 2021 NFT saga, journey, voyage, but it looks like we're actually entering a new era of that trip. Here, Joshua Miller tells us, I told y'all we were working on things for the Cardano Summit NFTs. This is just the beginning. If we come down here to the images, we see Terra Virtua, now rebranded to Virtua, and Cardano are telling us, welcome to Cardano Island, your community in the Metaverse. Join the whitelist for land sale. Be the first to know about the Cardano land sale. And then the next image, Cardano NFT holder benefits. As promised last year, these special limited edition Cardano NFT holders are getting perks. As one of the first pioneers, we're going to put you on the whitelist for land sale. In addition, if you buy land, you get to choose your building based on the Cardano NFT you've claimed. Plus, you get exclusive 3D Cardano bots on a free mint. Digital collectibles are up for grabs. Claim your unique NFT from Virtua now. If you haven't already claimed your official Cardano NFT, do so now below. So it sounds like the last time we talked, Terra Virtua was trying to get everybody to actually mint their NFTs. They already sort of existed, but just within Terra Virtua, and they made it possible to mint those on the Cardano blockchain. It sounds like if you want to participate in all of this stuff they're describing here, you actually need to mint those NFTs. Like all metaverses, like all metaverse projects, I don't know if this is going to be awesome, not awesome. We won't really know what it is until it's actually available for us to use and see it with our own eyes. So we don't know how this is going to turn out. But I will say that there were parts of the Cardano Summit NFT saga when it definitely would have been too much to hope for that we would actually get the NFTs and that there would be some kind of a metaverse based virtual world that the NFTs were going to be a part of. So this is a pretty interesting little extension on the whole Cardano Summit NFT story. This week was the week that I was coming back from continent number 2. I'm now safely back on continent number 1. I hope you've had a great week too. In my neck of the woods, it's definitely looking like summer. I hope you've also got some great weather going on so you can get out and do something fun this weekend. And I will talk to you soon.